thrilled to introduce Professor John Barrett.
Thank you very much. It is an honor for me this morning to have this privilege of introducing William H. Rehnquist, the Chief Justice of the United States. Chief Justice Rehnquist was appointed to his present office by President Reagan in 1986. He previously had served from 1971 until 1986 as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. He was appointed to that position by President Nixon. His total service on the Supreme Court thus now totals over 30 years, which makes him one of the longest-serving Supreme Court justices in our nation's history. An interesting path brought Chief Justice Rehnquist to this distinguished destination in public service. He is a native of Shorewood, Wisconsin, which is an early and lakeside suburb of the city of Milwaukee. After his high school graduation and a year of college, he served our nation in World War II in the Army Air Corps. He was stationed in North Africa and spent years there in weather observation and other service. After the war, and having experienced a more salubrious climate perhaps than his native Shorewood, Wisconsin, he hitchhiked with a friend across the American West, looking, among other things, for someplace more like North Africa than Milwaukee. And he found Northern California, and he used his GI Bill benefits to complete his college education and to earn a master's degree at Stanford University. At that point in his life, he was inclined to pursue a career in academia as a political scientist, and so he earned a second master's degree at Harvard University. He then, however, reconsidered that early career choice and perhaps that geographic slip and returned to Stanford, where he earned his law degree in December of 1951. He went through law school in a somewhat Jackson-like fashion on an accelerated pace, feeling that his military service had put him behind some of his contemporaries. And so he graduated in 2.5 years by going to summer sessions, which is not an insignificant fact. He graduated first in his class from Stanford and became a member of the bar shortly thereafter. He settled in Phoenix, Arizona, and was a successful trial lawyer there during the 1950s and 1960s, and was active in Republican Party politics. In 1969, following the election of President Nixon and the appointment of Arizona lawyer Richard Kleindienst as the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, he was invited to and nominated to and confirmed to serve in the Nixon administration as the Assistant Attorney General heading the Office of Legal Counsel. The Office of Legal Counsel is known and highly regarded throughout the legal profession as the constitutional thinker of the executive branch of the government. And he served in that position for more than 2 years. Among many tasks in that public service legal capacity, he worked on the first 2 Supreme Court appointments by President Nixon, the appointment of Chief Justice Warren Burger and Associate Justice Harry Blackmun. 1971 brought change to the Supreme Court with the retirements of Justice Hugo Black and John M. Harlan. President Nixon appointed a distinguished Richmond, Virginia lawyer, Lewis F. Powell, former president of the American Bar Association, to succeed Justice Black. And he appointed Assistant Attorney General William Rehnquist to succeed Justice Harlan. Now, in this biography, you will have noticed that I've skipped an obvious and important step. From February 1952 until June 1953, as his first job following law school, William Rehnquist served as a law clerk to Robert H. Jackson. A law clerk is an in-chambers direct employee and assistant of a judge, in this case a Supreme Court justice, to be used on the inside in a highly responsible, highly confidential position as the justice sees fit. Justice Jackson had William Rehnquist and a co-clerk with him for the 18 months that Mr. Rehnquist was a law clerk. And that working relationship, obviously, was his first opportunity at the Supreme Court, a very special direct exposure to the work of the court, and obviously a direct and intimate working relationship with the man who we honor and who this center honors today. There are, of course, many reasons why William Rehnquist got to be a law clerk to Robert H. Jackson. His own ability and accomplishments obviously top that list of reasons. But there is, and I note on this rainy day, ironically, a serendipity directly connected to Jackson's love of the outdoors and the beauty of nature that played a role in Mr. Rehnquist becoming law clerk Rehnquist, and of course everything that thereafter followed. As you know, Jackson was born in Spring Creek and grew up in Frewsburg, and as an adult lived here in Jamestown, and loved this land, and walked these hills, and swam in that lake, and rode his horse in these valleys, and was a man of the land. From 1934 until the end of his life, his home was in Washington, D.C., but he always returned to this area and loved it, and also loved the land of Virginia, as Melissa described Nancy's vision, the man on the horseback riding out of the woods. In addition to returning to Jamestown and loving Virginia, however, he also, beginning in the summers following his Nuremberg service, spent 2 weeks each year in the woods of Northern California, a place that he found captivating. And I think, having now seen both, in some ways there's a surprisingly direct comparison between those groves north of San Francisco and the groves here in southwestern New York State. As luck would have it, his second law clerk, a gentleman named Phil Neal, who was here with us last October, had become a law professor at Stanford University. And so the serendipity of nature and Northern California and Phil Neal and Stanford becomes the connection to William Rehnquist. In 1950, Professor Neal invited his former boss, Justice Jackson, to dedicate a new law school building at Stanford. That was a year in which Phil Neal was teaching a student named William Rehnquist. During the next summer, on an impromptu basis, Justice Jackson and Mrs. Jackson returned to Palo Alto, and while visiting the Neals, took a bit of a side trip to the campus, where Justice Jackson was introduced by Professor Neal to his star student, William H. Rehnquist, which became an interview, which became a connection, which became a job offer, which became a clerkship. In December 1951, Justice Jackson wrote to almost graduating Stanford Law School student William Rehnquist, "I felt that at our talk at Stanford that you and I would get along pretty well together. And if we can make proper arrangements, I will be glad to take you on." I know all of Jamestown and this region joins with me in echoing that Jackson sentiment. We will and we are here today getting along pretty well together with Chief Justice Rehnquist. And in Jackson's phrase, it is a high honor that he is taking us on and dedicating the Robert H. Jackson Center. The Chief Justice of the United States, William H. Rehnquist.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you, Professor Barrett, for the kind introduction. I'm delighted to be here for the dedication of the Jackson Center. I served as one of his law clerks for 1.5 years, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.